Hello, everyone. I'm Gian, and this is Whale FM Fireside Chat with Artists. In this show, we talk about everything and anything art and crypto in the NFT scene with designers and creators alike, otherwise known as non fungible tokens. My guest today is Ben Mauro, who is a senior concept designer and art director. He has worked with many films, television, and video game projects such as the Hobbit trilogy and Elysium and Call of Duty, for example. And now he's going to be releasing his first collectible series called Evolution on Vive on March 3. Hello, Maro. How are you doing? Thank you so very much for joining us. Your work blew me away, blew my mind. Like seriously, I was
Thank you
looking
so
through
much.
this, I was doing the research, and the more I looked, the more impressed I was. First, I think a few months ago, I saw Evolution that was coming on Vive, and it's something that like I have always had interest for, like creature designs, alien designs, and stuff. So when I knew that I would have the chance to interview you, I was quite happy. So why don't you tell us a little bit more about your background, your work? How did you get started?
Sure. I started. I went to school, and well, if you want to go back earlier, I grew up in Michigan and really loved video games, and that led me to a school in Seattle to like do 3D animation and stuff like this. And I got really a lot more
Mm-hmm.
fascinated in design, which led me down to a school called Art Center in Pasadena, where I studied industrial design and entertainment design. After I left school, I started working at animation and game studios like Sony Pictures Animation and Insomniac Games and places like this. And after a lot of hard work and trying, I got a job at Weta Workshop in New Zealand, and I moved my whole life to New Zealand, and that's where I kind of got started on working on the Hobbit trilogy, working on Mortal Engines, Amazing Spider-Man 2, Man of Steel, uh, Elysium, Chappie, tons of
Mm-hmm.
projects like this. It was huge. Just projects. It's like a just so many projects coming all the time. So it was a huge learning experience for me. And then after that, I wanted to go a bit more independent, and I started to. I kind of sold all my stuff and started traveling the world with my partner, and
Mm-hmm.
uh, projects like Call of Duty helped me do that. And I was working on all these big Call of Duty projects while I traveled the world to get a lot of life experiences and fill up my visual library. And
Mm-hmm.
towards the end of that, I worked on a movie called Valerian, and that was a ton of fun as well. And towards the end of that, I felt like it was time to settle down, and now I'm up in Seattle working on Halo Infinite.
Man, it's just like when I see your resume, like it's insane. You worked in so much stuff. It's absurd. It's absurd even. But it's interesting that you say like a lot correlates to your visual library, to your experiences, and I suppose it's constantly a learning experience. On
Yeah,
that note, I wanted to know, how did you learn about NFTs? How did you got to know crypto art in general?
sure. I mean, I think initially I knew what like I heard about CryptoKitties back when I started, maybe like 2016 or around that time. I remember hearing about CryptoKitties because like Ethereum was slow that day, and everyone was like, "What's going on?" And I remember all the news stories that this thing called CryptoKitties was like overload the network, and I was like, um, uh, I just remember
Mhm.
hearing about that, but I didn't know what NFT was at the time, and it probably wasn't until late last year when people started doing his first big drop,
Mhm.
and I was like, "What's going on? Like, what is this? What's going on here?" And then I saw a few other friends that I respected, like Victim Riscara, also doing this, and I was like, "Oh, okay, this is something. Something's happening here." And I started to apply to sites like Super Rare and got accepted, and then, uh,
Mhm.
but once I researched exactly what this was, um, I just realized that this is like the most revolutionary thing for digital artists, and basically the thing I've been waiting for my whole career, and most of us have been waiting for our whole
Mhm.
careers. And I just was like, I'm not gonna sit on this. I'm gonna dive in as strongly as I can, I guess. there's these moments in our lives when you like, I don't know, I don't know if it's hard to explain, but just like looking back on your life, there's moments where you can see, oh, that was a moment and I definitely missed it and I kind of regret it. And you kind of get a sense for like another moment like that. And I feel like this NFT thing is one of those moments for all of us. And I'm just gonna do everything I can and go for it, you know?
Yeah, for sure. I saw you on that article for the evolution drop. You mentioned that it's such a unique opportunity because if you were to be working as an artist most of the past, you would only be able to live out of it if it was for somebody else's purpose, right?
Yeah.
As much as you can like that, it's not truly exactly what you want to do with your art. So I get the sense that yes, it's a very unique opportunity that is happening on our lifetimes for one to be able to get compensated doing objectively exactly that they want to do with their art.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the feeling it gets me anxious sometimes, you know, because you feel like you always missing out on something that you always gotta try and push and be faster. But at the same time, it's like it's overall everything is getting better and better and better in this space.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's interesting because like I think I told someone else this, but it's like I always wanted to make my own work. Like my goal in life was like always to do the best art I could, but there was never an avenue to sell that art. Again, other than this is a advertising my skills so that someone else can hire me to do this similar
Mm-hmm.
job. But
Mm-hmm.
in my life, it was like I always wanted like this should be the valuable thing, and there was never a way to say this art creation that I made was the valuable thing. And so we'd have to do tutorials, or a lot of my friends who are amazing artists would end up moving away from art and having to go become a businessman in
Mm-hmm.
some other way because that was the only way to make a good living. Because the kind of art industry for entertainment can, not all the time, but a lot of the time it can kind of grind people up a bit and it can be pretty rough. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but so I feel like I was making the right art just at the wrong time. So my whole life I was making all this art that I loved around these like different themes, like, you know, biology and evolution and like all these different subjects. And it was the right art, but just at the wrong time. So now I feel like the
Mm-hmm.
time has finally come where, okay, I that time wasn't wasted. I you know, I'm glad it wasn't very easy, but I'm glad I didn't give up as an artist and kept pushing through because there was a lot of opportunities where, like some of my friends, where it's just like, well, you know, if I did this, I could make a better living, but then I'm not making art all day and I would be so unhappy not making art. So I feel like me sticking the course and not giving up on the thing I love will hopefully be like with this NFT stuff. I feel like that was the right call because, but earlier it would have been hard for me to ever anticipate or see something like this coming up. But I just always stuck with like, I want to do the thing that I love, even if at the moment there's no way for me to make money with my personal work or the kind of money or a good living with the art that I would love to be making all day, kind of thing, outside of working for a big company, you know.
I think that's such a special thing because like I have discussed with artists and I have had people like when making recommendations about how to go about your art career, many say like, oh, if you would like to work at this place, probably you should adjust your portfolio or your style towards being able to match that. So this kind of hinders the creative freedom that one has because you're always trying to adjust towards the market desire or whatever. But you having sticked with something, and I need to tell the audience because most might not know this project evolution is coming as a process as a result
Yeah.
of 10 years of work,
Yeah.
right? It is insane to think, that you have stick with this that you like, and it's a rare thing, as you said. People
Yeah.
often go off and have to go off for diverse reasons. So, for example, the creature Thor dates to 2011,
Yeah.
which I think is insane. How does it make you feel to look through your own evolution of style that is present on the collectible evolution?
It's really cool to me. Like this is this is kind of it's just really interesting because it is like the beginning of when I started. Like Thor was, I remember the moment of working on that piece when I was in New Zealand on The Hobbit, and I wanted to work on creatures for the movie, and I didn't have anything in my portfolio that they could see that. So they're just like, oh, I don't know if you're good enough for that. So I just spent all this time on the weekend learning ZBrush, learning how to sculpt, and I basically designed and sculpted this creature Thor. And I handed that into them on Monday. I was like, hey, something I did on the weekend, and they're like, oh my god, I didn't know you could do this. And then immediately after that, I started working on the wargs or the big wolves in the Hobbit movies. And
Oh,
so
dope.
like a lot of these things are literally like things I was doing to like prove myself and grow, to allow me to work on these big things on the movies that I was working on. So
Hmm.
it's kind of like, yeah, each one has its own memory over the years, and it's really cool. It is like kind of like selling memories or something, giving people a chance to own
Yeah,
memories. um,
that's a very good point. That's very interesting.
yeah, like every single one was like at a certain point in my life, and like yeah, it's really, it's a cool thing. And yeah, the evolution theme kind of ties it all together, because I mean that's what I was exploring, but also just in my life, um, it kind of all just kind of fits together pretty cohesively.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. It definitely has a lot of cohesion, and it must have been challenging considering the long time span that you went through. And that kind of links to the next question that I want to ask. You have worked on projects where you had the chance to design entire planets and their population, which is a monumental task. The freedom of design comes with its own challenges. Being so broad and open ended, one can feel lost and not know where to start. Can you describe to us a little bit of the initial stages of character design and the process of narrowing the design range to be able to create this conciseness that you definitely have?
Sure. I think a lot of it just comes down to, like, same for working on a movie, like just asking yourself a lot of questions, and by answering those questions it starts to narrow it quite quickly. When you're working for a director or someone, usually a lot of that will be set by them, but I kind of, it's good to learn to do that for ourselves, and I learned to do that for myself. So it's like, okay, what planet are they from? Okay, maybe it's on Earth. What region of the Earth would it be on? Okay, it's the desert. Okay, which particular desert? Okay, let me research that. um, is there water? Is there not water? What kind of animals on Earth live in this type of region on Earth? And you start researching different animals in those types of environments, and then you kind of start to get a range of biodiversity that exists in that region of life. And the more you start researching, uh, I feel like there's so much stuff on Earth that is just so far out there already that it doesn't take much to create something really fantastical. You can um, have these kind of base things that you've researched, and I don't know. To me, it's I don't want to say easy, but it's just like a logical. My mind
Mhm.
logically can push that into the future. I guess I don't know how to explain it, um, but it just kind of like it just I just like know I can make like something cool out of this real animal or source material or um, yeah, a
Mhm.
lot of it just being more about answering questions, doing a lot of research to have a strong source material that you're drawing from, and not just always uh, coming up with the same thing you've drawn again and again and again, or else you kind of
Mm-hmm.
get a bit stale. That was also the reason I wanted to travel, was when I was working on some films, there's only so much you can get from Google, right? So a lot of the
Mm-hmm.
traveling was seeing things firsthand. So when I was working on Valerian and some other films, I was in Australia, and during the day I would go to the zoos and study and research animals all day, sketching them and seeing them firsthand, or going and diving in the Great Barrier Reef with fish and sharks and stuff, and seeing all
Oh,
this
damn.
biodiversity of life. And then I go home and draw creatures all night with all these things I just saw. And so things like that were huge just for me, that I feel like I need to do this to push my work to the next level, because I feel like Google is a limiting factor in my growth right now.
Mm-hmm.
Even if that means I need to live out of a suitcase for a couple of years.
No, yeah, yeah, yeah. But this is a very interesting point. I have never seen someone say like, "Oh no," but like traveling stuff. It had a purpose. It had use. And as you say, like to be able to experience, like you kind of can understand better how to convey instead of having something that was already conveyed to you by others in some way or another, right? Um, on this specific kind of character design, there's a few fields of knowledge that come to mind that one can probably use to aid the process, such as biology, paleontology, archaeology, and maybe even some fictional science-based content like speculative evolution. Were you always particularly interested in those subjects, and have they ever helped you through the process, and how so?
Absolutely, especially comparative anatomy. Like once you get into creature design in general, it's just like a big rabbit hole you start going down, right? Like it's
Mm-hmm.
just like how does this like how does this animal relate to human? Like obviously you have to study humans and human anatomy, but then when
Yeah.
you start studying all these other animals, you see how everything is related through comparative anatomy. You see how the human bones are, it's the same bones in like a bat or a whale or anything. It's
Yes.
just altered. You can see the same bones in a human hand morphed into the whale's fin, but it's just been through evolution. It's been
Mm-hmm.
changed and altered, and all these crazy permutations and variations over the years to turn it into a whale. And once you start studying more, it just kind of, so many light switches start going on. And um, the more real world things I felt like I studied and understood, uh, it became easier to create more believable and plausible fantastical creatures. Um, Same thing once I got into like primates and stuff, right? I wanted to sculpt the skull from scratch, and then sculpt the skin on top of the skull, and like doing this in layers. So like I know, I could buy a scanned chimpanzee skull off the internet somewhere, but I wanted to sculpt it myself so I can understand that. I don't want to like take a shortcut. I want to understand it all for myself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then doing this, and once I did that, I had such a deeper understanding of how a primate, our very close cousins, are like from the inside out. I have such a deeper understanding of these animals, and that just goes right into all my other work. And things like this, like it's kind of never ending. It's an endless pursuit, and that's what excites me about being an artist, is just this endless pursuit of knowledge. And that's kind of what my whole career's been about, just like, where is the information I need to learn to get the skills and understanding I need. If that means I got to go to New Zealand for 3 or 4 years, like let's do it. Does that mean I got to be on the road for three
Mm-hmm.
years? Let's do it. um, but yeah, all these different subjects of like paleontology and all these things, like I think when I was little I was obsessed with dinosaurs. I'd recite all the dinosaurs to my grandma and stuff, and so she would buy me more dinosaur books. So I was always obsessed with like animals and snakes, and making my own, like, these are all the snakes, and making my own little books and things. And so it's kind of like I've been doing the same thing since I was like a little kid. But just
No,
it
yeah.
looks a lot better. It looks a lot better now.
No, I asked this because I relate a lot. Like this, as you said, like having a bunch of dinosaur stuff, animal stuff, and like, so when I saw the project itself, it was something like, oh, like it made a lot of sense to me in many different levels. I think it touched an interesting subject because like as humans we have this like pattern seeking brain, right? And you say like the believability of a design, it kind of constrains but it also guides like what can you really do, because we think about, we don't necessarily need to be rationally thinking, but when we process a design, we think about like gravity and physics
Yeah.
and weight and bones and stuff. So yeah, it's there's so much that go into this. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
And then a lot of that, like once you get an understanding of like, say, how human or primate or something works, then you can start mixing and matching things, right? So then it's like, for example, this is like, okay, human mixed with a gecko or some kind of lizard, and then it's just like, it's almost like sliders in your brain. It's like, okay, 20% human, 80% gecko. Okay, maybe that's too much.
Mhm.
40% human, 60% gecko, and like, oh, that's a nice mix. Okay, that feels alien enough, but not too much like an animal, but not too much like a human. And you can kind of like play with this slider, or it's like, okay, a lion mixed with a hammerhead shark mixed with a squid or something, and you're just kind of mixing these things in your brain and bringing it out there. And
Mhm.
yeah, you can just start combining these things that you like, but not too many. I feel like if you combine more than two or three, it gets a little messy, where it's just like, oh, this has teeth from this animal and this from that animal, and just looks like too much of a Frankenstein, I guess, unless it's like a horror movie. But there's definitely, when you study real animals, you kind of get a sense for like the limit of mixing that can happen, and if you go too far out of that, an average viewer won't understand why, but they'll know something's wrong. And I feel like that makes an
Mhm.
unsuccessful design, where there's like a range of designs that biological life on Earth have evolved to create, and we kind of inherently know just from growing up looking at animals, like this is what would probably exist based on what we've seen in our lives. So these things definitely I keep in the back of my mind when I create new stuff also.
Mhm. No, yeah, it's super interesting, and there's also like kind of the range also evolves and change over time, right? If you think about like how aliens were designed 30 years ago, it's very different to how they are designed right now, because like pop culture like start incorporating, and for the new people that come in, they already have that as a base, so they can build up from that.
Sure.
Yeah, it's just a very very interesting field. So um from humans and animals to aliens and robots, what sort of character is your favorite to work with, and what's the one that you find most challenging?
I think I really like, I really, my, since a young age, I really wanted to I've always wanted to understand everything. So it's always like a range of, what am I'm trying to get good at the thing I'm weakest at, and then once I get strong in that, the other thing's weak. So at first it was maybe like, I'm terrible at creature design, I want to get better. And then it's like, okay, I'm pretty good at this. Now my robotics are terrible, I want to get better at that. And
Mm-hmm.
then, oh, now I'm good at those, but now my environments are bad, I got to get good at that. So it's like always been like trying to level up everything equally. Um, so I kind of enjoy, again, I kind of enjoy everything equally, and I want to get good at everything equally. So when I finish something, I kind of take a mental like self-assessment of just like, okay, I'm much better at this now. This is lacking. I want to get better at that. Uh, but all of it's pretty interesting. Um, yeah, I think a lot of it might be now like mixing again, like more like, okay, I've done a lot of creatures and I've done a lot of robotics, but maybe I'm not very good at a robotic creature, or some mixing of those two, like bioorganic kind of mixture of things. So that could be some interesting things to explore and get better at as well. But yeah, all of it is like ripe opportunity to challenge myself and push myself further, to create some new stuff that hopefully people haven't seen before.
Yeah, that's yeah. I like that you like the challenge, because it's definitely really challenging.
Yeah.
Someone was like, "Oh, the other day there was such a nice interview, and someone mentioned like, oh, the artist is like someone who is capable to pull through being bad at something for a very long time, right? And that's how you get good at something, and that
It's true. It's
requires,
really true.
yeah, it requires a lot of mental
Persistence.
strength and
Yeah.
yeah, persistency, really. And to see like, oh, for you it's like, oh, what is this that I am bad at right now, let's work on that. I think that's a very good way to go about things in general.
I feel like if more people were artists, we would all be like I feel like being an artist, like you have to be so honest with yourself and very self, uh not attacking yourself, but like you have to be just very honest with yourself, like because like there's no way to hide what you know. It's immediately apparent what you know you can't do and what you can't do. So if you apply for a job and it's like, I want to be an environment artist, and you don't know how to do environments, it's very clear that you don't in your
Mm-hmm.
portfolio. So there's you can't lie to yourself and the client. You can't lie to the client, or because they will know, you know. So it's like you have to be very in a very honest place. And okay, I really got to, if I want this, I really have to get good at this, and it's going to take this much work. And I can tell myself I'm good at this all day, but I clearly am not, and I just need to be honest and get to work, improving that.
Mm-hmm. It's a sort of self-awareness, but also a solid understanding of what does it take to get good at something, right? This is an expertise on itself. You have gone through so many different designs. Now you can assess and like to think, oh, if I want to work on this, it will probably take this much time, which is, yeah, it's a mark of I can't say old, not old at all, but it's a
I
mark of
guess
experienced
experience, I
art.
guess,
Yeah,
yeah.
experienced, exactly.
And just, I guess it's just like there's like a level of humility you have to have about yourself. Yeah, maybe like when I was younger, I was more like I can do anything, but as you get older, you definitely like, okay, like even when I was making my graphic novel, right? Like in my mind, I was so confident that I could finish that in a year, and the reality was it took me like 4 years, and no matter how
Mhm.
much in my brain I thought I could do that, it's just like the reality was I just need to like you just kind of calculate in your head like, oh my god, to do this the way I want it to do and make the pages as like detailed and beautiful as I want them to be, it's going to take probably 2 more years, like once I was in the middle of it or something. And it was like I could either like cry about it or get upset or just be like, okay, yeah, I want it to be this good, I want it to look like this, I'm okay with 2 more years of my life going into this that I'm making $0 on. So there's things like that where you're just like, I really want to be the best artist I can, and I'm willing to just like accept the reality of that over those years where it's like, well, I'm not gonna make any money on this. I could go do this other job and make much more, and my life would be much more comfortable, but I just love this so much, and that's all I care about. So I'm willing to sacrifice that to make this thing that is important to me.
Yeah. I'm glad that you stick. I'm very glad, and now you get to have this collectible here.
Yeah,
So,
it's interesting because like a lot of the people who did make those compromises, they stopped making art, and now that this amazing moment is here, like maybe their skills are not what they used to be, or they haven't done a painting in 7 years because they switched their life over to something else. And it's always like we can never see or plan what's going to happen in the future, and I've always felt like it's good to do the thing we love, because over time I feel like things like this that we could never anticipate will happen at some point. Like some technological breakthrough or something will happen, and maybe the love for this thing is there, but financially we couldn't support ourselves. But now I feel like both are there for the first time ever, and
together. Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. This stuff is definitely coming together. So on the more technical side of things, what sort of equipment/programs do you use to achieve this level of render?
some of these, like these, are just drawn in Photoshop with like the line tool and rendering from scratch. This was some 3D. I think at the time I was probably just using ZBrush, or now I use Blender, and render it out with Keyshot and then paint over it in Photoshop for details. So earlier on in my career, it was ZBrush for organic sculpting, and Keyshot for rendering things, or just rendering out of ZBrush with the render passes. But lately it's been very Blender heavy, and maybe some Octane for like really nice renders. And I experiment a little bit with 3D Coat, but it's been pretty much Blender and then ZBrush when I need it for organic sculpting and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And equipment.
I love experimenting and exploring everything. So like once I settled down, I wanted to like switch over to PC because I just needed more horsepower for all this 3D stuff. And so I went down a rabbit hole of like, what's the best CPU? What's GPU rendering? What's CPU rendering? And just experimenting with all these things. I think at one point I had four 2080 Ti's in one rig, and I was like, oh my god, this is so fast. But then there's all these heat issues, and I was like, okay, this is too much. This is too much to deal with. Like, what is the perfect balance for me? And so now it's just I have a 32 core Threadripper and then one 3090, and I feel like that's like more than enough for the stuff I do. Like I have friends with like 9 3090 GPU rigs, and I'm just like, that's overkill. So like for me, it's like one 3090 and a Threadripper is like that's good. That's good for me. Everything can always be faster, but this is really good for me because it's hard to turn that off. It's like, yeah, but with two 3090s it'd be even better. And it's like, what's better than two 3090s? Four 3090s.
Of course.
But then all these issues start coming up where it's like one 3090 makes my room a sauna. Two 3090s will make it like Florida or something. A lot of things like, and then it's just like, oh my god, one overheated because it's too much heat in here, and then I need to get fans, and then it's just like, before you know it, your room sounds like an airport, and you're like, okay, this isn't good. This is not working.
Oh my god. Yeah, I'm thinking like, yeah, you can render faster, but how can you draw if you're like drowning in your own sweat? Because they do make the room considerably hotter, right? It's crazy. 9. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, because I think there's some custom builders that like do the builds are, I mean, to be fair, they are beautiful like builds, but it's like, like 14 3090 builds or something crazy like this, and it's like but a lot of my friends are like rendering off movies all day, so like for them that saves them so much money and get their job done so fast, and I totally understand that. But for me, it's just like, well, I'm not doing that. I just need to do like really fast renders for environments, and maybe I do some simple animations or scenes sometimes, and one is more than enough for me.
Yeah, but if you're going with 14, like how gonna beat like mining Ethereum into it instead of doing art, right?
That too. So it does make it hard to get the GPUs. Yeah. Luckily, I was able to get one pretty quick before a lot of the miners took a lot of them. I've seen some like 120 3090 mining rig, and I was like, oh my god. It's like a whole room of RGB lights and stuff.
That could have been like 100 artists working.
Yeah, I saw a lot of artists just like, what?
Oh my god. So including the entire process and rendering, since we touched on the subject, how much time does it take for each piece to be made?
I guess it depends. Like on movies, it's really stressful because the deadlines are like so fast. So a lot of times you don't have very much time to make them detailed. Sometimes you have a day. Sometimes you have like, I need this by lunchtime, and it's like 9 o'clock, and you're just like, oh my god, okay. Um, and sometimes it's like I need 3 things a day, 3 things a week. A lot of it just depends on the job, and you basically just have to like crank up the adrenaline for how fast you need to get it done. um, uh, but ideally, it'd be great to just like have as much time as you need and like work on it until it feels right is what I would prefer. Um, but the deadline can also be nice, where it's just like this has to be done by Thursday, and it's just like, okay, got to figure this out no matter what. But yeah, I'm not 20 anymore, and like that kind of thinking basically leads you to working till like all hours of the night, and then you're not really paid that much, and then the final result you're super happy with, but then it's just like I probably took a couple months off my life overworking, and those add up, you know.
For sure, for sure. All right, a little bit more on the side of the Evolution series.
Sure.
Now, as a collectible fan, you mentioned that you really like Pokemon cards and NBA cards. I'm a huge collectible fan as well. You probably understand that one factor to the success of a product in this market is a well-designed rarity system, where some major decisions and considerations what are some of your major considerations and decisions when designing the supply and tiers on Evolution?
Sure. Well, a lot of it I trusted the Vive team to. Like, I feel like they were more experts in this field than me, so I kind of trusted them on some of the numbers. But the idea that only 50 people in the world can own a whole set seemed pretty good limiting for me. Whereas I've seen other things where it's like there's like 500 or 1,000 of people can own all of it, and that feels like too much. So I feel like 50 is pretty good. That feels lower than like a lot of Pokemon things where it's over 100 for like their rare, super rare kind of cards. So to me, 50 was pretty good. Like only 50 people in the world would be able to have this whole set. I'm going to try to get them in the secondary market if I can for my own collection. Like I don't want any unfair advantage. So I was telling
interesting
in the Evolution chat.
That's a nice consideration.
Yeah. So like I don't want to take anyone's packs or anyone's chance to get a pack, and whatever they choose to sell it, I'll pay whatever they flip it at, their duplicate cards. But I definitely want to try to get a whole set for my own NFT collection just to hang on to. I don't know. I think it'll be really cool, especially later on when OpenSea announced a partnership with Flow. So all the NFTs people collect on Vive will be able to be traded on OpenSea later this year, whenever that goes live. So I feel like trying to get a set and then hodl it, I think things will get pretty interesting when the OpenSea market can come on board.
Jesus Christ, man, you're gonna make a dent on my portfolio. I'm so concerned right now. Stop teasing me. I regret asking this question.
But it's also cool too, like having the commons being a little more available, where a lot of the common cards are really, really cool, and it's a less barrier of entry to get in, and people can still get some really cool art. But for the uber correct collectors, like it is going to be like, okay, there's only 50 people who can get these pretty much if they want the whole set.
Yeah, I know.
I'm going to try to, but I don't want to. I won't take the first dibs away from people, but I definitely will try.
That's very nice of you. That's really nice of you. I ask this because honestly, I have seen projects / artists by themselves try to come up with stuff, and often they get supply wrong, right? And they make too much available. And as good as the thing is, this being well designed, and I really think yours is, it's good to see. It checks out the boxes on the collectible side of things. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I've been like, a lot of this was decided a little earlier, but once I kind of, after being in the market and kind of seeing how everyone else has been doing things for the past few months, and a lot of the drops on other sites like Nifty, where it's like, okay, they minted like 500 of this one art and it was, it's quite expensive, but it's like there's 500 copies of that, and it's like, wow, okay, the market really values these editions, but it's still quite a lot that are created, so the rarity isn't as high as, someone paid 7,500 for a 500 edition, and mine is, one of 50. So it's like, okay, I think the rarity is pretty good. In context, it's kind of like in between a collectible only and like a artist kind of series. We're kind of in the middle of these two extremes.
Mm-hmm. Is this the first collectible that's going to be dropping on Vive?
I think so. I think this is the first big kind of project. So that was exciting to me as well, where I know Flow is quite early adopter phase right now, and then launching NFTs on Flow is even earlier adopter. So like, I appreciate everyone's patience for that. The market is a bit limited, so a lot of friends in the US and Canada are like, I really want this. How do I, like, I'm just like, it's probably going to come soon, but it's just not, I'm sorry. It's like, it's not available yet. And so it's like the people who do have availability to Flow will definitely be benefit hugely from being an early adopter and all this, and getting in on some of these projects that not everyone can get in on just yet. Which again will add to the rarity when a percentage of the audience can actually get it and hold on to it.
For sure. Yeah, and it's a very unique opportunity. It's a very unique opportunity, being the first, and as you say, being so many people being currently unable to purchase. That's definitely going to drive demand over a few months. Next, okay. What do you have in mind for the future of the project? Is this a first of many editions that are to come?
I've been kind of had an open dialogue with some of the collectors in the Vive Discord for the Evolution, and we kind of discussed that a bit, where it's like, I do want to keep it open to, like, let's see what happens, and keep an open dialogue with, like, okay, do you guys want this to be expanded this much? Are you happy with the rarity and pricing of this? But there's also ways we could expand without diminishing the rarity. Like, if I did another like 30 creatures, that would diminish the rarity of these first creatures, right? But maybe there's a way to expand where, okay, maybe series 2 is just environments and they match up with the creatures. So series 1 is creatures, series 2 is environments. And if collectors want everything, the only way they can get creatures is to go to the original collectors of series 1, so that they can have creature and character, or environment and character. So there's obviously many ways this could be achieved to expand while also not diminishing the value of early adopters collection. So there's a few ways like this that could be kind of interesting, but I also want to keep it an open dialogue like that, where I saw other people drop things and collectors were kind of mad, like, you're releasing too much, like they were worried the person would release another big drop of a similar amount too soon, and then would diminish their investment, and I don't want that to happen. So I would love to keep an open dialogue with collectors and the community of what feels right, what is too much, what is too little. And then another idea that would be really awesome, but I don't know if it's even possible, would be like maybe a CryptoKitty similar kind of system where you could breed, or you could evolve two species together and make something new. And so if you're a collector of series 1, those are the only people who would be able to create new evolved species. But that would take a lot of research and development to get that right, and
I imagine
make it work. But there's a few ideas like this where it's like, that would be so cool, but that would maybe take a lot of time. I don't know if it's even possible, but I want to explore some of these ideas and see what might be possible. So it could either remain just like a collectible series, but if there's an option to do these cool mixing of technology and art, and again, if the community thinks that's a cool idea and do it in a way that, again, still doesn't diminish their original collection, but allows them to create new things that they could monetize without diminishing their series one, could be pretty awesome. But again, I feel like it's a process and not something I'm gonna do 500 cards in another month, and then everyone's like, whoa, hey.
No, yeah, it's definitely something that it's tricky. It has a complicated balance, because it's not like, oh, simply do and don't do anything else, because you also want it to keep growing, right? You want to be able to bring more people in and more people to start realizing and valuing these old collections. So yeah, definitely complicated.
And also a lot of things happen, like a lot of things that happen with things, it's very organic. Like it can't be planned a lot of the time, where it's like, whoa, this really took off, or maybe we expected this to happen and then this happened, but it's way better than what we expected, and maybe let's just go with it and go down this path. Or even like, say, like CryptoPunks. I wasn't really aware of how that project started, but I read somewhere that I guess all the CryptoPunks were free from the beginning. At the very beginning, you just had to pay like gas fees to get them. And now they're like,
I think
selling for $1 million or some crazy, like it just, again, things like organically just kind of spread out, and over time things happen, and now it's like kind of unattainable for people, but those early collectors are benefiting hugely. So it's like, if the CryptoPunks are like, we're going to release another 10,000, everyone will be like, whoa, don't do that. So there's things like that where it's like keeping an open dialogue with the collectors and what makes the most sense. Okay, that's it, and you guys have the most valuable asset that there's ever going to be of this thing, or do you want some expansion or no expansion, or expansion in this way and not that way? And
having the dialogue and being open-minded and just being accessible, you're definitely going to be more likely to find the best way. I trust it. So you also been working on our first graphic novel called Huxley. I'm sorry if I say that wrong. I hope I didn't.
No, that's right. Huxley, yeah.
Given this new venture of yours, could we expect to one day be able to see the creatures present on Evolution in other media forms, such as graphic novels or games?
It's possible. I mean, everything's possible. There's so many cool opportunities. Like, I'm getting contacted about like cool collaborations, like making real things mixed with my art, and I'd totally be up for like if someone wants to make like certain products, real world products based off some of these creatures, or vice versa. Like this could be really cool to see it expanding in that way, where it's creating real world things or real products that people can collect. Like, oh, I have card 8 and I have this cool thing based on card 8's character or something. Or yeah, expanding it into other mediums like games or other things like this could be really cool. Or VR experiences, like a cool gallery or Unreal space where you can like go to the creatures' planets. Something like that could be pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
The card is hosted in a mini gallery of like an experience of that creature's planet, and everyone can go and like walk around and look at all these different parts of the galaxy and stuff. Could be pretty awesome. But again, these are all like, I'd love to do a lot of things, and we'll see what people want and where it could potentially go. And
mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, going back to NFT in general, what do you think this space will look like in 5 years?
I don't know. I feel like it's definitely the beginning. From researching, I guess I read that people have been doing this for about 2 years before we finally got to this moment. But I feel like it's taken off so much in a big way that it's like the genie's out of the bottle. so to speak. I feel like it might just be more of a NFT art will be huge, and there will be all these different ways that kind of crosses over to real world products and digital products. But I feel like it'll be more about the birth of the metaverse. Like this is maybe the moment that people start taking this metaverse concept seriously. And in 5 years, I feel like it'll just be more like we are well on our way to having a working metaverse, and all these NFTs we buy, either digital or movie files, will be in our virtual space or house or real estate or whatever, in our beginnings of our Ready Player One metaverse kind of thing. I mean, a lot of video games are kind of already doing this. Like Fortnite is kind of, it feels like they're preparing for this, like getting every kind of franchise and things in their game. It's still kind of limited to their Fortnite game, but I know they're very serious about turning, like making the metaverse happen. So I feel like Unreal and some of these developers on the forefront really help push that. So I'm excited to see in 5 years if we pretty much have a beginnings of a metaverse in place. And, you know, if you bought that skin in Fortnite, you own that skin in the metaverse and can walk around as Mandalorian next to your friend who's, you know, Venom or Wolverine or something. You can all go on a cool adventure playing all these different games and looking at all the cool art or whatever different experiences people make over the next few years. So I feel like making projects like this, like Evolution or my Huxley project that I've been working on, I was just going to release a book, but now with all this stuff happening, I feel like it'd be really cool to bring that also into this space and develop a lot of these things. So in 5 years, maybe I have an Evolution part of the metaverse and a Huxley part of the metaverse, and people can like experience this whole thing in the giant internet 2.0 or whatever it turns into. I'm just really excited to see how this idea manifests and how far along it will be over the next few years.
Yeah. I think like it's interesting because I always, it was for a long time, I was under the impression that, okay, Bitcoin took this much time to get this much media attention, right? But then NFTs, it's looking like it's going to be way faster. And perhaps it's just that people can more easily understand what it is so good about this, right? Artists and media and stuff, it's like everything on the internet can be improved by this. So it's only natural, I suppose.
I think art is a much easier thing for people to understand than like digital money. Like that can get pretty abstract pretty quick. But the only abstract thing here is like, okay, we basically can let digital art be unique, and that's like the only mental hurdle to kind of get over. And after that, it's like, oh yeah, like of course, like we've been selling paintings for 1,000 years or something, and like that concept has been around for a long time. And so I feel like it's a much easier thing to understand, and people are like, oh, you're just buying digital art. And that's kind of the extent of it. And it's just like people just collecting really cool art. And it's a very easy thing to show a friend, like, oh, look at all this cool art I bought from this artist I love. Like, I feel like that's helps a lot to allow this idea to spread so fast.
Yeah, I agree with you. So I want to be mindful of your time. I have a few audience questions.
Sure.
But there is one. Now that I know that you also collect, I want to know what's your single most favorite NFT that you own.
Right now I have one from, I think his name's Justin Mahler. There's a lot that I've been trying to collect. I've been trying to collect one from my friend Victor Mascara, and I think the whales come in and keep upping the price too much out of my reach. I'm just like, dang it. Next one, I will try to get it. So there's definitely a lot of artists that I'm like, I really want a 101 from them, but one of them's getting so hard to get because like there's so many crypto collectors that have been doing this way longer, and they're just like, oh yeah, 10 times more. I'm like, oh no. I can't compete with that. And I get close and they're just like, oh yeah, double. I'm like, oh, okay. Maybe the next one I can get it.
Yeah, I know the feeling.
And there's so many amazing artists that keep crossing over too. So I really want to like build a cool collection before a lot of these guys get too out of reach. And so many things are already getting out of reach for me, at least in the one-of-one space. But this also makes these kind of editions and collectible series like this, where there are more copies, more attainable. Where like I'd love to get a CryptoPunk, but that's kind of out of reach now, for at least for me. So there's a lot of things that I feel like I'm too late, and it's like a bit of NFT FOMO, where it's like, oh no, what is still available? What's in my budget? Like, what can I get? Like, try to get as much as I can before things get too crazy, because I feel like we are kind of at the beginning, and if it's already getting this kind of crazy, I have no idea where we'll be in a year or even 6 months. If it's like if a Beeple image for $1 is now selling for 200,000, I don't know. It's gonna be, I don't know where the prices will be in 6 months.
Yeah, 100%. It's stressful. Even I relate to a lot of things that you said. I was thinking the other day, like, I regret every time I don't make a move, and I also regret every time that I do. So I'm going by like, do I love this thing? Because if I love this thing, it's gonna be okay, right? But yeah, it's a lot of things is getting out of reach, and as you said, trying to build position as much as possible right now, right? To not be left out.
Because now will probably be the cheapest time to buy these ever. I mean, things are getting expensive, but it's still probably it's like when Bitcoin goes up and everyone's like, oh my god, Bitcoin went to like $1,000, and it's like, well, it's probably like, maybe it'll go down a little, but it's like if you waited, then it's like, oh no, Bitcoin's $5,000. What are we gonna do? Like, it was 1,000, and now it's like you just kind of like, you got to jump in because like in a year, it's just like, oh my god, it's so out of reach now. It's like 50,000 or whatever it is now. It's like the crypto space kind of, I feel like it acts this kind of same mentality for a lot of things, where it's just like, yeah, I feel the same way. Like every time there was a painting where I'm like, oh, or like an edition, I'm like, that's kind of expensive, and I didn't buy it, and then like a week later it was like 10 times more and for sale on the secondary market. I was like, oh, I messed up. I definitely messed up. Like every time I was just like, I could have had that for 500, and now it's like 15,000. Like, what did I do?
I know. Yeah, and then it goes to the side of things where if you were to have bought, you go to the parallel universe where the price drops to zero, right? If you bought it, it wouldn't be 15K.
Or yeah, what was that old like joke when like I got into Bitcoin like 5 years ago or 3 years ago or something? It was just like, when I buy it goes down, when I sell it goes up, or something.
Yeah.
Like the meme, like buy goes down, sell goes up, or something.
Yes. So let's try to get through the audience questions then. You have worked on so many projects. Which of the projects you worked on do you hold the fondest memory, and why? Oh, good one.
I think there's different reasons for different projects. Like I mentioned earlier, like I'm really obsessed with like chasing knowledge and information and learning. And the first project was probably Elysium, where, I mean, I learned a lot on The Hobbit, but Elysium was like, I felt like we were making something new. The Hobbit was like, expanding the Lord of the Rings universe, and we had to keep certain things consistent. But Elysium, I felt, was the first time I worked on something where the team pushed something very new out into the world that I had never seen before, and it was exciting to be a part of that in as much of a way as I could. But when that came out and I saw like the entire industry go, whoa, like something new finally, like that feeling is very rare. That rarely happens, and I feel like I've been chasing that since then. So like every project I try to pick, okay, will this be another moment like that where I can create something really new that the whole industry and all my peers will be like, whoa, that's so different. That's really cool. So after that might be Valerian was a moment like that, I hope, but it was also an opportunity to allow me to affect a whole movie at a deeper level. That's also been something I've been chasing. So the moment I was quite proud of the sort of influence I could have on a big project. So like I started out maybe having a little influence on a little project, a medium influence on a medium project, and then trying to have a big influence on a big project. And that's been kind of my whole career, trying to learn how to do everything so that I could apply this understanding to my own projects like Huxley or Evolution, where, okay, I know how to design a whole movie from the ground up by myself, which is not an easy task. So all these projects over my career have been kind of stepping stone favorite moments to allow me to do what I'm doing now.
Now that NFTs allow artists to focus on their passion instead of business models, do you feel like your talent has evolved as an artist?
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of it too is like, now that this exists, there's so many things that are possible that I want to try now. It feels like once this NFT stuff started, it felt like the moment when I wanted to be an artist in the first place, like that excitement of just like, oh my God, there's so much things I can learn and do and all this new stuff. It feels like, I don't know, it's like a reset. It's like back to level 1 or something, that sort of excitement that most of us haven't felt in a very long time. It's very exciting times right now, for all digital artists.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So Ben, we have to wrap it. Unfortunately, it was a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you for having joined our community to allow us to have a sneak peek of what is the process of this. You like such an experienced guy in the industry, and I wish you the best luck on the drop, and I wish myself a chance as well, because I love it.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, and to the audience, I hope you guys enjoyed as much as I did. Thank you for listening. Thank you again, Ben, and have a good day.
Thank you guys so much. Yeah, you too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.